Grade 12, good to see you again. How are you guys? Good, of course. Yeah, here we are again with Unit 2 North Star and Lies and Truth. And today we're going to finish this unit by focusing on writing. So let's go to our focus on writing that is on page 46. Awesome. Here we are. Focus on writing. Of course, we start off with our vocabulary, and that's the review of the vocabulary of the whole unit. Okay, so basically all the words that we've learned throughout Unit 2, we're gonna take a look at that again. And those are only the words that we use for reading and writing. As you know, listening and speaking has its own vocabulary and grammar focus. Great. Now, here we see the selection. You're going to fill in each blank on the next page with the word from the box that matches the definition in the parentheses. Meaning that you are going to use these words in the right context and make sure that this whole text, which is called Truth and History, makes sense. So you're going to use words in context. We look at betrayal, conscience, deception, delusions, empirical, foolproof, get around, outright, plagued by, pretending, and quest. Let's take a look. Here you have the text, truth and history. So all 11 words you're going to put in the right spot. You can pause your video to do that right now. Good luck. Great. Now, I don't think that was much of a problem for you. If in any case, some of the words were still difficult for you, I do advise you to look them up in the dictionary or online or write the Indonesian word above it. Because yes, later in your unit test for Unit 2, you will get these words. Okay, so it's important for you to know them. The more words you know, the easier it is for you to write and to speak. You need to expand your vocabulary. That brings us to the point of expanding. We're talking about negative and positive connotations of words. Now, the connotation means that's an associated meaning that goes with a word, and it's mostly either a positive connotation, a positive association, a negative, or a neutral association or meaning to the words. I can say a word which I can have a negative or a positive or neutral connotation. If I, for example, say to you, I'm feeling blue, that has a negative connotation to it, meaning that I'm sad or down or even depressed. Yes? So sometimes words literally expressed and interpreted have a primary meaning on its own, but it can have a connotation, means an underlying meaning or essence to a word. Now, the two words in each pair are related in meaning. Now, however, one word has a more positive meaning or connotation, while the other has a more negative meaning or connotation. So I'd like you to put a P next to the word with a more positive connotation and an N next to the word with a more negative connotation. For instance, looking at the word manipulate. Okay, manipulate, persuade. Kind of similar in a way, right? But they have a different connotation. If I say to you, I manipulated my friend, or I persuaded my friend. If I were to say to you, I manipulated my friend, that sounds kind of negative. You have a negative essence from that word. If you hear that, you know, what you sense out of it is definitely more negative. Whereas if I said to you, I persuaded my friend to join us, that would be more positive. You won't have that negative feeling to it. And that is what a connotation is. A connotation gives that feeling. It's either negative, positive, or neutral. Now, I'd like you to pause your video and write an N or P. Go ahead. Great. Awesome. So, having done that, we understand that almost every word has a connotation, either positive, negative, or neutral. Now, in this activity, I want you to circle the word or phrase. What is a phrase again? It's not a word. It's either 2 or 3 words, but it's not a sentence. Awesome. That is a phrase. Now, I want you to circle the word or phrase that best completes its sentence. Which one makes sense in the context of the sentence? Let's look, for example, at number 1. Using reason, facts, and proof, professional historians try to manipulate or to persuade people to recognize unpopular truths. Which one is the best to complete the sentence? You have to circle that one. You can pause your video to do that. Good luck. Welcome back. Now, for the part of create, we are going to skip. You do not have to write a paragraph down. Here, actually, it's more is trying to use at least eight vocabulary words from the unit and 3 words with either negative or positive connotation to write. So it's basically implementing the vocabulary and the connotations. But we're going to skip that for today. What I do need you to understand and remember is that a word can have a positive, negative, or neutral connotation. Yeah, the sense that you get from that word. That also is important because you need to know, you need to realize which one you're going to use. You wouldn't want to use a word in a positive setting that has a negative connotation, meaning that it can change actually the meaning of what you're basically trying to say. So you have to be aware of the connotation of the words that you use either in writing and or speaking. Awesome. That brings us to grammar. Okay, today we're going to look at using double comparatives. Comparatives, oh my goodness, what was that again? Comparatives, superlatives. Remember that? Comparatives is when we're looking at 2 things. Okay? The simpler idea is that with a comparative we add ER, or with more than 2 syllables we mostly use more. So for example, I am taller than you, or he is bigger than me. Yeah, so comparatives always compare 2 things. Yeah, always 2 things. So if it is more than 2 syllables, like for example the word beautiful, we can say she is more beautiful. Yeah, now if we're looking at superlatives, that's where we're looking at 3 things or more, 3 or more, and we're looking at either the biggest, the smallest, the most. So we use EST and most for more than 2 syllables, like smallest, biggest, or most beautiful. Awesome. Now, going back to this part, we're talking here about double comparatives. So we're looking at sentences that have 2 clauses. Yeah. Now, I'm going back first to activity 1. Up here, I want your attention here first. Examine the sentences and the questions that you think should go with these. Now, for example, the bigger the neocortex, the more deceptive the behavior. Let's look at the sentence. The bigger the neocortex, the more deceptive the behavior. These are 2 clauses. We have the bigger and we have the more. And this shows a comparative. That's why you can see here big, bigger, ER, and the more deceptive. This shows a clear comparison. Okay, now how many clauses are in the sentence? I kind of already answered that. Boy. Write it down. Number 2, what grammatical structure is underlined? Look at these 2. Write it down. And number 3, why does the author put the 2 clauses in juxtaposition in the same sentence? If you don't know what this means, you're gonna look it up. Okay, cool, write it down. Great, awesome. That brings us to using double comparatives. We're going to discuss those answers that we did just now in our next Zoom meeting. But I do want to go back really quick to this statement, juxtaposition. Why does the author put the 2 clauses in a juxtaposition? Why? And what is that? Now, a juxtaposition is the fact of 2 things being seen or placed close together, but they are contrasting. So, 2 things, 2 things that are put together or seen together. For example, here we have 2 things. The bigger the cortex, and the more deceptive the behavior. So there are two things mentioned here, placed together, but they're contrasting. This is contrasting this. Two different things that are placed together, but they're contrasting each other. That is called juxtaposition. Okay? Awesome. Now the answers to these questions we will discuss in our next Zoom meeting. Awesome. Yeah. Now we're going to look at the grammar here to understand what it means. Yeah. Well, maybe before we continue, it's maybe smarter to go over this first though. Yeah. I think. Yeah. So let's do that. Okay. How many clauses are in the sentence? What did you answer? 2. Correct. What grammatical structure is underlined? What did you answer just now? Comparative. Correct. Yeah. Comparative. Comparative adjectives. Yes. If you would have said comparative is correct, if you would have said comparative adjective is also correct. And why does the author put the two clauses in juxtaposition in the same sentence? Two opposing things in one sentence. Why? To compare two ideas. Yeah. Why? Juxtaposition gives it away, which means, right, two things placed in one sentence, but they're contrasting. So in order to compare two ideas, when you're comparing means you're contrasting two things. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so double comparatives are sentences that have two clauses. Yeah. Each of which starts with a comparative adjective or noun or an adverb structure. The clauses are separated by a comma and define the logical relationship between ideas with various variations of, for example, you can say the more, or the less, the more, the less, the more. So they're like, this shows like a comparative. Yeah. Now, in most cases, the second clause explains the effect of the first. So the first one introduces something, and then the second is like the effect of it. Here we have an example, or here's some rules. For a good balanced writing style, it is preferable when both sides of the double comparative are parallel. It's very important in your writing that you always have parallel writing, that you keep it in the same way. The way you write it should be the same. That's why we call it parallel, or written with the same word order. Yeah, for instance, the more social scientists study human behavior, the more we understand our social interaction. So we have the plus comparative. The comparative is more. And then we have the subject, social scientists. And then we have the verb study. And then we have the object, human behavior. So the more social scientists study human behavior, comma, and then we do the same thing as we did before. Again, the more, the comparative more, subject we, verb understand, object our social interactions. So the structure of how you write it should be parallel, means should be the same. The experts agreed that the more social scientists study human behavior, the more we understand our social actions. Awesome. Now, so that was the first point. First point is that we wanted parallel, we wanted balance. Yeah, the same structure that is used. Number 2 is sometimes the verb in one clause can be left out. Sometimes we can skip that one. For instance, here we have the more social the species, yeah, the more intelligent it is. The more social the species is, the more intelligent it is. So in this case, they leave out the is. The more social the species is, the more intelligent it is. You could say the more social the species, the more intelligent it is, as long as it still makes sense. Number 3, sometimes both verbs can be left out when the meaning is clear from the sentence that went before it. Psychological research is not a waste of money. The university should find more studies of human behavior in the field There can't be too many studies. The more, the better. Yeah. So in some cases, both verbs can be left out. In this case, the more, the better. There's nothing else that is said. This is very short. Okay, but it refers to what has been stated before. And number 4, notice that a double comparative can never be correct unless the definite article the accompanies the comparatives in both clauses of the sentence. Yeah, so this is a definite article, the. Yes, so it should go with the comparative in both clauses. Double comparatives are a stylistic tool that writers use to focus the reader's attention more closely on key concepts, and it helps you to see the connection between them. However, be careful not to overuse this form. You do not want to be repetitive and keep using it all the time. Okay, so there are a few rules to remember. First off, when you use double comparatives, like these bold ones here, make sure that you use a good structure that is parallel. Keep it the same. Sometimes the verb in one clause can be left out as long as it still makes sense and is grammatically correct. Sometimes both verbs can even be left out, but you have to make sure that the meaning is clear. Like in here, it is mentioned before and then short after, the more the better. And number 4, notice that a double comparative can never be correct. You have to always use a definite article, the. It all says the more, the better. See, there's a the involved in both clauses. Yeah, very important to remember that. Okay, awesome. We go to activity 2. You're going to write a C next to the sentences that are correct. C for correct, and I next to those that are incorrect, I for incorrect. Yeah, and I'd like you to revise or change the incorrect sentences to become correct. You can pause your video to do that. Go ahead. Awesome. Yeah, just to check out one, in number 1 here, the most informed we are, the more we can protect ourselves. Is that correct or is that incorrect? Incorrect. Why? Because you cannot put most and more. Most is superlative, more is comparative. So this is definitely wrong, which should become the more informed we are, the more we can protect ourselves. Awesome. Okay, 2, 3, and 4 we will talk about in our next Zoom meeting. We're going to go to number 3. Here you have a picture of Erin Brockovich. I don't know if you guys watched that movie. I think it was, the actress was Julia Roberts, I think, who played in that movie, if I'm not mistaken. That was an awesome movie, true story. What we're going to do here is the following refers to the story of Erin Brockovich, which is a true story, who became famous for uncovering the truth of a company's lie about pollution in the biggest class action lawsuit in American history. You're going to use the cues to rewrite the underlined sentences or parts of sentences with a double comparative. You may have to change the word order and leave out or change some words in order to make it work. Yeah? So why aren't we gonna look at an example? These are 5, 6, 7, yeah? 7 sentences. We're gonna do number 1 together, okay? Pacific Gas and Electric Company was anxious to buy up the property of residents in Hinckley, California. Many residents did not want to sell their property, but the company insisted that they sell very soon, otherwise they would receive less company. Now we're going to change the underlined part. Yeah? Okay, to make it work. So for instance, what we can come up with here is the cue, meaning that we look at the cue that we start with this. The longer, this is what we start with, and this is what we use, and you recreate the underlined sentences. The longer they waited to sell, the longer they waited to sell, the less, let's say I use the less money they would receive. The longer they waited to sell, comma, the less money they would receive. I can also make it this way. The sooner, I can say that too. So this is one, yeah? The longer, the less. You see, this is one option you could do. Use the longer, the less. Or we do this option. Let's now try this option. The sooner they sold their land to the company, comma, the more money they would receive. So in this case, there are two options, and I want you to write down both options. Yeah, it's the longer they waited to sell, comma, the less money they would receive, or the sooner they sold their land to the company, comma, the more money they would receive. Okay, so we're gonna look at the underlined words. Here we have it. Yeah, two options. The longer they waited to sell, the less money they receive, or so you're gonna write down both options. Yeah. With number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, in this case, we only have one cue, the more and the more. And here we have the greater, the more, and the more. So with you, you would only write one. Just now, I gave you an example of 2. Go ahead, pause your video, and do this. Great, that brings us to the last part of Unit 2, reading and writing. And just now you worked with the double comparatives, which is very important because in most academic writing, we write in a lot of these essays, we do comparisons, and it is important that you are able to use the double comparatives using double clauses and make it grammatically work, thinking and remembering the 4 rules that we talked about just now. Now, that brings us to the writing test. This is what you're going to do. This is your writing project that you are writing in your journal. And for Unit 2, your writing project is writing an opinion essay. You're writing an opinion essay about honesty. Now, here it says write an introductory paragraph to an opinion essay, but that's not what we're going to do. You are going to write an opinion essay. And you're going to write about honesty. Here it says that you would write in response to the question, should we always tell the truth? Now, you can do that. You can use that question to jumpstart your ideas for your essay. That's totally fine with me. But basically, you have the freedom to write about anything regarding honesty. Your essay has to be about honesty. How you write it is up to you, but you could also start with this question or let this question guide you. It is an opinion essay, meaning that it is all based on your opinion. I do want you to research for ideas that can help give facts or evidence to the opinion that you're having. So basically what you're writing is based on what you think, but then it is important for you to research what you think and come up with information that can just prove or strengthen your opinion. You're going to use the vocabulary and the grammar that you have learned in Unit 2. It's very important that you use that in your writing. Awesome? Awesome. Not awesome. Awesome. Huge difference. Okay. Now, let's just look at what we can do to prepare our writing. The first thing we do definitely is our pre-writing. You guys know that already. You're in grade 12. You're already super, super smart if it comes to this. Preparing to write, of course, we start with our brainstorming. And in this case, you see the graphic organizer is here, column, 2 columns. So you're going to brainstorm on advantages and disadvantages of telling the truth, let's say, or any particular part you're going to focus on regarding honesty. Let's say at the left column, we talk about the advantages of always telling the truth. In the second column, the disadvantages of always telling the truth. And see what you can come up with. So you're basically generating ideas that come from yourself. What you do after that, then you do your research. You look it up. Do research to back up the ideas that you came up with. Yeah, so you always brainstorm first and then let your brainstormed ideas guide you to do some research, because you do have to write sources in your bibliography. Even though these are your ideas, I want you to back it up with something you find on the internet. Then you write, you basically do not start writing. What I want you to do after you have brainstormed, I want you to write your outline. So you brainstorm, do your research, come up with ideas, and back it up with sources. And then you're going to write your outline in your journal. You check your outline, whether your outline is correct, and then you can write your essay. You can basically write your first draft. After you've written it, you can ask a friend to check it, and then you can edit it, and then you submit it. Great. Now here, a little bit of information, probably you know already, I just want to go over it with you. Here we read information about an introductory paragraph and a thesis statement. Now, your thesis statement is definitely the most important part, because your thesis statement introduces what you're basically going to write about. It reflects the general main idea. It therefore reflects your general topic and purpose, and your whole body, or all the body paragraphs in your essay, are the development which is based on the thesis statement. Now here it says about introductory paragraphs. An essay is composed of an introduction, a body, and conclusion. Now the introductory paragraph, the author writes a statement to attract the reader's attention. That would be definitely the hook. Yeah, the first one, the H. It is the first of the paragraph's general statements, which introduce the general topic of the essay. After that, we can get an overview, background information, a few sentences that kind of lead into the general topic. All right, so that's the general statement to introduce the general topic of the essay. There are many ways the writer can spark the reader's interest. It can be a question, a humorous remark, a shocking statement, a quotation, or an anecdote, whatever works. So you really have your hook first. That is only one statement or one sentence, and you have some general ideas. That's your overview. Can be 2 sentences or 3, or just one that just leads into the topic. And then you get your thesis statement as the last sentence. Now the flow of ideas in the paragraph goes from the general, large, broad ideas to the specific, like a funnel, details, examples, and particular cases. The most specific statement is definitely the thesis statement, which is usually the last statement and is not a question. And people, remember, do not also start any of your body paragraphs with a question, yeah? A topic statement, sentence is a statement. So is a thesis statement, a sentence. Now, the thesis statement communicates the main idea of the essay. Now, the main idea, the general main idea, holds what? Holds the general topic and purpose. It reflects the writer's narrow focus and point of view, attitude, or opinion, and it also forecasts which aspects of the subject the writer will discuss to support the thesis in the body. So basically, everything that you write in the body is reflected through the thesis statement and should be in one line, because you kind of in the thesis statement say, hey guys, this is what I'm going to talk about, and then in the body you're like, hello, I'm talking about it right now, and in your conclusion you say, okay guys, I kind of talked about this just now. That's how it works, right? So a good thesis statement should have all these criteria. So the thesis statement is not a statement of facts. It is not a statement that simply announces the general topic of the essay. No, it does. It really gives the topic, but it also gives the purpose of what is going to be discussed in the body. Yeah. So, it gives the topic, but also the purpose. That's very important. Let's look here at some examples. Lies are distortions of the truth. This is not a thesis statement because it states a fact. It doesn't state a point of view that is given. This is just a fact. And a thesis statement must hold a topic and a purpose. This essay is about the role of truth and lies in our life. This is not a thesis statement. It only announces the topic. There's no purpose. Telling the truth in our life is important. This is not a thesis statement. Although it gives us the writer's point of view, there is no focus here, no clear purpose. Why exactly is telling the truth at all times important? Now, let's look at this one. It is important for us to be honest with others because by being truthful, we stop living a lie in our own life. We show respect to others and we create the conditions of meaningful relationships. This is a statement. It explains why the writer believes it is important for us to tell the truth. The three body paragraphs, from here you can see it will deal with the first one, not living a lie in our own life. Here, we stop living a lie in our own life, first body. Showing respect to others, second body. And create the conditions for meaningful relationship would be the third body. In this case, you clearly see what will be discussed in the body. Sometimes, if you don't want to really announce that or mention that, you could say there are 3 reasons. Then it is also clear that the purpose is the 3 reasons. For example, you don't mention it, but you could also mention it by topic sentence, as you see here, meaning that these 3 sentences will be your 3 topic sentences. Topic sentence 1, 2, and 3. Body paragraph 1, 2, and 3. Like that. Awesome. That brings us to the activity. Here, basically, we're going to try something out, okay? Read the sentences from the introduction to an essay, and I'd like you to put the sentences in the order using 1 for the first sentence and 7 for the last sentence. The thesis statement. Write the numbers in the blanks. So this is an introduction. Yeah? This is an introduction. This is not an essay. This is an introduction. And knowing that the last sentence, number 7, that is the thesis statement, okay? Awesome. Okay, you can pause your video to try this out. Great. That brings us to activity 4. Here, you're going to evaluate the statements and put a check next to the ones that are good thesis statements. Do not automatically think that the longer the statement means then that is the better thesis statement, because it doesn't necessarily have to be long. For the statements you choose, discuss how you think the writer could develop each of them in the body of that essay. How do you think it would work in the body of the essay? Now, which ones do you think are a good thesis statement? Give a tick for that. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Also, what I would like to know in our next Zoom meeting, I'll probably ask you how the ones that you have not chosen could be changed to become a better thesis statement. Awesome. Great. It's not always easy, yeah? Remember that your thesis statement just has to hold the general topic, but also the purpose of what is the purpose, what will be discussed in the body. Either that is mentioned exactly or that is categorized, that is fine, but it has to be mentioned. It has to be clear that when you read the thesis statement that you know what the body will be about. Okay, we're going to skip this one, yeah? Because you're going to focus on writing your essay. Here you have revising, learning to revise, like writing introductory hooks and general statements. This is basically a very good practice. We're going to look into this. Let's look at the paragraph. In looking for the lie, Robin Moran's Hennig expresses doubt about the possibility of living a healthy life in a world without lies. And on the river, Mark Twain gives support for Hennig's view that it is not always best to tell the truth. Twain's story shows that in an unjust world, it is sometimes necessary to lie in the service of humanity. Twain would have agreed with the reasons for telling Hennig's kind-hearted lies. The more Huck lies, the worse he feels, but he is doing a good deed in saving his friend. It would seem, therefore, that telling a lie is not always a morally objectionable option. Lies can serve a higher truth. No comment to that. I wish I could see your faces right now. Okay, that brings us to number 1. Does the writer spark the reader's interest at the very beginning? What do you think? If you read the beginning of this paragraph, do you get excited to read it? Yes or no? Write it down. No? Not really, right? No, it doesn't. I don't think it really sparks, or it doesn't really make me interested to read it. What about number two? Does the writer go from broad general statements to specific statements? Does he do that? Yes or no? No, he doesn't really go from broad to specific. What about number three? Does the writer have a thesis statement? Yes or no? Yes, he does. His thesis statement is lies can serve a higher truth. This one here. Lies can serve a higher truth. That is a thesis statement. Yeah, so the topic is lies, and the purpose is that they can serve a higher truth, and then why they can serve a higher truth, automatically we're talking about the reasons for that one. Awesome. The writer of this introduction starts with specific statements and goes from the specific statements right to the thesis statement, which is the last sentence of the paragraph. However, the writer does not do anything to spark the reader's interest. There is no hook and there are no general statements. So flowing from the hook that make the reader understand the subject general importance and inspire the readers to continue reading, that is just not there. It doesn't, no hook, no general statements. For instance, at the beginning of reading 1, Robin Moran's Hennig attracts the reader's attention by discussing all the different ways people believe they can detect liars. Although it is not an essay but an excerpt from a novel. Reading 2 starts with a sentence that makes the reader want to read more in order to find out if Huck and Jim actually find the town that will make Jim a free man. In both cases, the reader is hooked. You want to read it because you get interested. So you see here that a hook is super important. General statements that kind of transit from the hook into the thesis. It guides you into it. It gives this background information. Now, what I want you to do, read the statements and write yes next to the ones that would be good hooks and would serve as an inspiration for general statements. Because after your hook, you get your general statements. Your general statements give background information to lead into the thesis. Write no next to the ones that would not be good hooks. Okay, let's try 1 to 5. We're going to do number 1 together. I'll never forget how terrible I felt in that moment of truth. Would that be a good hook or not? What do you think? Would it or would it not be? Yeah, I kind of want to know what it is about, right? So, yeah. Awesome. Cool. Okay, you're going to answer 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can pause your video. Go ahead. Okay, that brings us to 3. Okay, here, this is a student's introduction with one of the good hooks from exercise 2. Okay, I want you here to look at it, the start of a paragraph as an introduction. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, here it says with a partner starts a student's introduction with one of the good hooks from exercise 2 that you could use, and then write the general statements that would naturally connect with what the student has already written. So basically, here the student continues, but we're not going to do that. What I do want you to do is, I want you to read this and I want you to answer the questions. What happened in the moment of truth mentioned in the hook? How did it make the writer feel? What is the link between these general statements and the specific opinions of Hennig and Twain? And more specifically, how does the writer compare Hennig and Twain? And last, what is the thesis statement? So I want you to read this, and I want you to answer questions number 1 until 5. Go ahead. Okay, here we see it says, now use what you have learned to write introductory paragraph, do an opinion essay. Yes, so after having done all this, you can really start with your introductory paragraph to your opinion essay. And look at the draft of your introductory paragraph. Is it good or not? If you need to revise it, you revise it. So guys, this is the recap. Start with your pre-writing, do your brainstorming, okay? And then from the ideas you got out of your brainstorming, do a research to back up your ideas with sources. Then you will write your outline. Yeah, organize the ideas, revise the outline if needed. Don't write it in complete sentences, in short form. And then you can write your first draft of your introduction and your body and your conclusion. And then you can check it, revise it, edit it, and then write and publish it. Awesome. Now here are a few things that you can do for editing that you can look at. For editing, writing the final draft. So here, write the final draft of your introductory paragraph and your whole essay, basically introduction, body, and conclusion. Carefully edit it for grammatical and mechanical errors such as spelling. Look at capitalization, important, and punctuation. I often see you guys forgetting capital letters and punctuation, so please, people, look at that. Make sure you use some of the grammar and vocabulary from Unit 2. And use this checklist to help you write your final draft. Okay, so for instance, does the introductory paragraph have a hook? Go from general statements to the specific statements and in a thesis statement. That must be there. Is it clear from the thesis statement what the focus will be in the body of the paragraphs? Have you tried to use at least one double comparative to pinpoint the main issues of an argument? And have you used new vocabulary and expressions, including negative and positive connotations in the essay? This has to be in it. And also your body paragraphs, is there a topic sentence, main point, supported by details, and a concluding sentence? And is your concluding paragraph clear in either summarizing or concluding what has been written? And give a recommendation and give a takeaway. And a takeaway that is almost the same as a hook. You leave an idea behind, a final thought. Make sure all of that is in your writing. That brings us to the end of Unit 2. Cool beans, hard work, well paid off. I'm very proud of you. I would ask you to keep being excited in writing, since it helps you not only to reason critically, analytically reason and understand concepts, but being able to either express those ideas correctly through your writing. Thank you very much. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.